This video is for Unit 2, Murfreesboro City Schools, and it's going to be video 1 for this unit, and we're going to talk about multiplying with place value blocks. Now we're going to start with a review of the distributive property just with unifix cubes to make it very simple. So if I'm looking in my 5th grade classroom, and I know you see this too, that you've got plenty of kids in that 5th grade that do not know their sevens, for example, okay? So if we show this with unifix cubes, if we show 6 times 7, okay, or 6 rows of 7, very often children will know their 5s and their 2s. And I say, you know, what do you love to multiply by? And they'll usually say, oh, well, I love to multiply by 10s, and 5s are easy, 2s are easy. So we could decompose 7 in lots of ways, but for this, I'm going to decompose it into, right here, I'm going to decompose it into a 5 and a 2. So now I have 6 times 5 plus 6 times 2, because I decomposed this 7 into a 5 and a 2, all right? So here, this is my 6 times 5, this is my 6 times 2. You can also let the kids draw this on grid paper. So you can take a crayon and draw what we have right there. And then this is my 6, and this is a 5. Okay, let me change colors. And this is my 2. So here I have my 6 times 5, 6 rows of 5. And that's going to give me what? I'm going to talk to the kids. This is going to give me my 30, okay? And then here is my 6 times 2, which gives me my 12. Of course, you could put it in here too. All right? Now I've got my 30 plus my 12 gives me my 42. And a lot of times I like to, with the kids, if we're just talking mental math, moving this to mental math, because I know you have to do some of that in the beginning. If I think in my brain, if somebody says 6 times 7, I think, well, I'm going to decompose my 7 into a 5 and a 2. I can say in my mind, 6 times 5 is 30. And 6 times my 2 is 12. And if I put 30 and 12 together, I have 42. So that's a real easy way to start distributive property and get them grounded. So if you'll kind of just give that a whirl at the beginning, I think you'll see some results. Another thing you might need to look at, since we're talking about base 10 blocks and we're talking about place value in this unit, I would make sure that my kids had this. It doesn't take long in 5th grade. They should have been using this a long time, for years. So here's my ones place because we're doing only whole numbers for this unit. So this unit cube is going to be my 1. My rods or my longs will be my 10s. My flats are going to be my 100s. So give that just if you've got a place value mat or something, at least get that much, make sure. And of course you're going way beyond that in place value. But with the manipulatives, we are going to be using just probably up to the 100s place because it gets so big with your manipulatives. You just can't manage everything. All right, so let's step this up a little bit. Go up just a little bit more this time. Let's look at 6 times 12, 6 rows of 12. Now, when I get to my 2-digit numbers, I want kids using place value. With my unifix cubes, we were just unitizing there. But now we're looking at our 10s and our 1s. So if I'm going to make my 6 times 6 rows of 12, I want them using a 10 and 2 1s to make a 12. Okay, let's get these going here. Okay, there we go. Now, all right, so we have 6 rows of 12. All right, let's decompose that concretely. So important in the beginning to make sure that we are concretely decomposing. A lot of times I'll put a crayon or a pencil right there to show. So here I have 10 times 6, I got my 6 rows of 10, or 6 times 10, giving me, think about what you're getting, and then my 6 rows of 2, think about what that would be. Now, you can get kids to do this also. Let's look at this and see. I have drawn a picture of 6 times 12. And you can see here, I've decomposed my 12 into a 10 and a 2. This is my single digit, my 6. I've got my 6 times 10, my 6 times 2. So this is that distributive property model. And you can model it however your book wants you to model it. This is one way to model it. I've got my 6 times 10 is my 60. My 6 times 2 is my 12. And together they're going to make my 72. So that is a great way to get them into distributed property before we quickly move into larger numbers. Okay, let's move this aside. Now, what if we have something a lot bigger, like 12 times 35, okay? 12 times 35, that's a good size amount of manipulative, so let's look at that. So I know I've got to have 12 going this way. Now, in the beginning, they're going to probably struggle with this part, and some of you might have those little L's that show you, or a lot of times you'll put the 10 and 2 1s here. So you can just do it whatever, but I want to show you just real quickly that I'm going to do a 10, and I'm going to get my 2 1s, and as many times with a big number like this, if I can use 10 rods and my flats, so that's my 10 and my 2 1s, my 12, okay? Then we're going to continue. I've got to have 35, 12 rows of 35. Well, that's 10. 10 more is 20. Move this down here just a little bit. And another 10 is my 30. Okay, so there's my 10, 20, 30. So now I'm working on the 12 times my 30. Okay, keep that going. All right. Now I've got to get 5 up here. So I'm going to use longs to make that 5. There are my 5. 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. All right. So I've got my 35. And then I've got to fill this in with my units, my 1s. Okay. Now, and this is what I want us to see where they're going to go. Now, this is partial product, but also you could say, people call this the box method, things like that. So think about that when you're doing with your kids, and let's look at it, and let's look at the model, and then we have to add all of these partial products together. So here I have my 10 times my 30 is 300. 100, 200, 300. So this is going to be my 300. Got to add all these together. Then here I've got my 2 times my 30, giving me 20, 40, 60 there. Okay. Then I've got my 10 times my 5, giving me my 50. Got to add that in. And last but not least, we've got our 2 times our 5, giving me 10. And I have a total of 420. Now, I know that you are going to do much bigger problems, but get them grounded so that they see this when they see this. Because you may be staying with this mainly with your iReady or how they model that. You'll be staying with this, but we want this picture in their mind when they do things like this. And I would also encourage you to listen to Graham Fletcher's Progression of Multiplication, even if you've listened to it before. Please listen again. I go back to that, and every time I see something else that Graham is doing. So the next video is going to be on division, and then we'll go, that will wrap up our Unit 2.